The first appearance of the combat exoskeleton with sturdy armor emerged in 1959 in the iconic novel Starship Troopers by Robert Heinlein. However, surprisingly few are aware of the power armor in Star Wars. How could there not be power armor in the Star Wars universe, where an incredible variety of droids with advanced servos and artificial muscles exist? Exoskeletons and high-tech prosthetics also exist. Moreover, there are compact and sufficiently powerful batteries to power all of this. In Star Wars, power armor is called power suit. I will start discussing the subject with armored rarities. The power armor was the brainchild and personal project of a highly talented engineer, Admiral Galak Fiar, who, towards the end of his life, oversaw many interesting military projects, aided by subordinate engineers in its development. It is unknown what material his armor was made of, but it is known that this armor was impervious to all types of small arms fire. Even grenade launcher shots were withstood by the armor, with the resilience of a wall being pelted with peas. Additionally, the power suit was equipped with a shield generator. However, its weaponry was modest: a dual-barreled blaster built into the right arm and a power claw in the left arm. Due to its massive weight, Galak could not run, although he did not need to. In such armor, one could barrel through like a tank. In the power armor prototype, Galak Fiar attempted to kill Jedi Kyle Katarn, who was killing his soldiers and officers and damaging valuable equipment. However, the Jedi defeated the Admiral. You can personally meet the brilliant Admiral in the game Star Wars Jedi Knight 2: Jedi Outcast, released in 2002. But this was not the first instance when Kyle Katarn had to confront an opponent in power armor, especially one of such high officer rank. Many years before that, the future legendary Jedi battled General Rom Mok, also clad in unique power armor. You are undoubtedly familiar with the Dark Trooper project. The main objective of this project was to create a new generation of combat droids to partially replace stormtroopers and Imperial Army soldiers in the most dangerous combat situations. For example, in assaulting a well-fortified defensive line that needs to be breached, but where the breakthrough would cost the lives of thousands of soldiers. In such cases, it is better to send in well-armored droids, which are expendable. Human lives are, after all, more valuable even to the Empire. But within this project, not only droids were created, but also power suits. Armor based on combat droids. The project was led by Rom Mok, a veteran of the Clone Wars, who was well-versed in both droids and cybernetic implants and prosthetics. Before creating the droids, Rom Mok practiced on clones. His first project was called Phase Zero Dark Troopers. It involved transforming severely wounded and ill-old clones into cyborgs. Sometimes, if a soldier's injuries were particularly severe, cybernetic implants could constitute up to 70% of a clone's body. The project was not entirely successful. Occasionally, clones went insane. They had been fighting droids for several years and hated them, and now they were themselves turning into a kind of droid. How could one not go mad? Rom Mok, already a general by then, proposed to the Emperor a project to create a new generation of battle droids, along with a power suit variant. The project was approved, funding was allocated, research facilities, ships, and more were provided. Among these was the unique ship Arkhammer, a flying laboratory and factory in one. In total, 3 generations of Dark Troopers were created. The Phase 1, an extremely fast and agile light-class droid, primarily armed with melee weapons. They were used to guard several particularly important Imperial facilities, and were limitedly employed in certain special operations. Darth Vader appropriated several dozen Phase 1 droids for training fights with lightsabers. The vibroblade in these droids was replaced with a fully functional manipulator arm wielding a lightsaber. The next mass-produced model was the Phase 2. This was already a heavy-class droid nearly 3 meters tall. The armament was accordingly heavy. A heavy blaster cannon, built-in rocket launcher or grenade launcher with an ammunition load of 20 grenades or rockets, or simply a heavy blaster rifle. Besides this, the droid could fly, and its armor was nearly impervious to light firearms. During combat testing, several Phase 2 droids, without any support from the fleet, destroyed a large and well-fortified Rebel Alliance base on the planet Talai. The MC-80 Mon Calamari cruiser was also targeted. The entire crew of the heavy cruiser was destroyed one by a single Phase 2 droid that breached the ship. Vader was very pleased with the field tests and immediately ordered mass production to begin. But Rom-Mok did not intend to stop there. And now we come to the main event, the Phase 3. This was not just a droid. It was a full power suit with artificial intelligence. The Phase 3 droids possessed the greatest firepower and the thickest armor among all those created under the Dark Troopers project. The armor of the Phase 3 droid, or rather the power suit, was impervious to any handheld or stationary small arms, including powerful models like the E-Web Heavy Blaster. Moreover, the armor and built-in deflector allowed the droid to withstand direct hits from an anti-tank grenade, shots from an anti-personnel or light anti-tank blaster cannon, and detonations of mines. Although luring a Phase 3 onto a mine was not easy, this droid, like its predecessor, could fly. In addition to this, the droid had powerful armament capable of turning a tank into scrap metal. Rom-Mok was truly a genius, having succeeded in creating the power suit which surpassed all models already in service with the Empire, although it was not cheap 80,000 credits. For comparison, a TIE fighter cost 60,000 credits. This genius, who remembered the Clone Wars, understood that no artificial brain could replace a human. That is why the Phase 3 was both a droid and a power suit. It is not difficult to guess how much the combat capabilities of the elite strike units of the Imperial Army could have increased if the Phase 3 had been adopted and put into mass production. Until the moment Kyle Katarn, with all his inherent destructiveness, put an end to it. The Dark Trooper project's power suit had not been tested in field conditions. Only several dozen instances of the power suit were produced. The end of the story came when Rom-Mok attempted to kill Kyle Katarn personally, donning the power suit, the Phase 3 armor of his own making. The outcome is somewhat predictable. After Rom-Mok's death, the project was not revived. Although, in the future, some quantity of Dark Troopers from all three phases was used by the Empire and the Remnants. However, it is not specified whether this armor was from old stock, produced during Rom-Mok's lifetime, or if someone managed to set up small-scale production of the Phase 3 within the fragment. While the Phase 1 and the Phase 2 operated in the fragment as regular battle droids, the Phase 3 was always piloted by a human like a conventional power suit. You can personally familiarize yourself with the Dark Trooper project and shoot at them in the legendary game Star Wars Dark Forces, released in 1995. Additional information can be gleaned from dozens of official guides and encyclopedias. The Dark Trooper project is mentioned in many places, but these were unique, experimental samples. Now let's look at the serial products of the Imperial and Republic military-industrial complex. The first serial samples of the power suit, which would later be used by the Empire, appeared during the Clone Wars. Combat trials were conducted by the famous Galactic Marines. They were the elite soldiers of the 21st Nova Corps, 4th Sector Army of the Grand Army of the Republic. The Corps was under the command of the respected Jedi Master Ki-Adi-Mundi. They were masters of landing operations and boarding actions, and who else to trust with such an important task as testing the power suit? The Galactic Marines were well known, valued by command, and their appearance on the battlefield caused panic in any soldier of the Separatist army. During the boarding of starships, the Galactic Marines would penetrate the ship not only through docking bays and hangars, which the defenders always expected, but also land on the ship's hull in spacesuits, break through the hull with explosive charges and laser cutters, or enter through technical hatches. In the Battle of New Bornalex, the Marines used experimental armored spacesuits, the power suit. The new armored outfit for clones significantly enhanced a soldier's physical strength to the level of a B-2 battle droid, allowed for high-speed spaceflight, and had integrated weaponry. The clones passed combat trials successfully, but their experimental power suit did not fare as well. During the battle, the integrated weaponry of most suits malfunctioned or failed to fire altogether, but the clones did not falter. They attacked the droids in hand-to-hand combat. Thanks to servo motors that multiplied a soldier's physical strength several times, the clones could punch through B-2 droid hulls, breaking droidicus. The outcome of the Battle of New Bornalex was as follows. The clones were satisfied with minimal losses, but the power suit was sent back for revisions. The upgraded versions were then used by the Galactic Empire. Moreover, the Imperial budget was sufficient to establish large-scale production of the armored suits within a short period. In the early years, no fewer than 100,000 sets of power suits were produced. Later, a second, heavier generation appeared. But more on that later. For now, let's return to the Clone Wars, as the clones of the Grand Army of the Republic wore another variant of the power suit. At the very beginning of the Clone Wars, it was believed that for breaking through heavily fortified enemy defenses, artillery, orbital strikes, and air-to-ground missile and bomb strikes were more than sufficient, after which infantry, supported by repulsor tanks and walkers, would be able to finish off the weakened enemy. However, the terrain or urban environment did not always allow for the use of tanks, and artillery could not be used everywhere. For breaking through defenses, soldiers needed very strong armor because soldiers in ordinary light armor, light in protective properties, suffered unacceptably high losses. Thus, the so-called Blaze Troopers appeared. We first encountered them in the arcade game based on Episode 3. It was called Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. The game was released in 2005 as a supplement to the film. Later, Blaze Troopers appeared in several reference guides, such as the Clone Wars Campaign Guide. The most commonly used weapon of these clones was the flamethrower. The flamethrower could be replaced with a blaster cannon or a multi-barrel rapid-fire blaster, and they could hold something heavier, up to an automatic grenade launcher or a mounted blaster. The armor of the Blaze Troopers provided excellent protection against small arms and shrapnel. Additionally, like most types of power suits in Star Wars, it allowed for short-distance flights. However, as you will see later, repulsors were usually used for flying, while the armor of Blaze Troopers used a pair of jet engines, a rather outdated approach. Now, we return to the Galactic Empire. By order of Emperor Palpatine, an elite corps called Space Troopers was created during the first years of the Empire. Only the best soldiers were selected for this force. Initially, these were clones, but later, ordinary humans were also recruited. In terms of combat and ideological training, Space Troopers were second only to the Guard and the Assault Commando, that is, the Special Forces. Space Troopers used various types of protective equipment. Sometimes it was the standard stormtrooper armor, supplemented with a pair of tanks and small thrusters for space travel, along with boots equipped with magnetic grips. But more often, Space Troopers were associated with a different armor, the power suit. This too had several variants. Initially, the Imperial Space Troopers used an upgraded power suit of the clones, which was successfully tested by the soldiers of the 21st Nova Corps in the Battle of New Bornalex. In the power suit, a soldier not only possessed enormous physical strength but could also fly through space at great speed. This power suit did not restrict movement. Then came a heavy version of the armor, which became the true symbol of this corps. This power suit was almost impossible to penetrate with light and heavy blaster and projectile weapons. It could easily withstand shrapnel from hand grenades and artillery shells. The armor could endure both extremely low and high temperatures. Thanks to its airtight design, the soldier need not worry about chemical, radiation, or biological weapons used by the enemy. The built-in weaponry was also impressive. The primary weapon was a light blaster cannon. In addition to this, there was a grenade launcher with an effective firing range of 200 meters and an ammunition stock of 30 high-explosive, fragmentation gas, or stun grenades. Additionally, a proton mini-torpedo launcher could be installed, which could shoot down a starfighter or create a hole in an armored door or bulkhead. Furthermore, the power suit included a built-in laser cutter for making holes in the hull of an enemy vessel. Space Trooper stormtroopers learned to use this cutter as a melee weapon. Space Trooper armor was designed to be used together with the standard stormtrooper armor. This was done for a reason. There was a possibility that during a boarding action the suit might be damaged, and the soldier might have to leave it for some reason. Without the standard stormtrooper armor, the soldier could perish, suffocating or freezing in a depressurized section of an enemy ship. Even if the power suit was disabled, the soldier would not be left defenseless. Of course, it was possible to operate in the suit without stormtrooper armor, but this was extremely inconvenient. The armor was powered by 4 repulsors, with the main repulsors located in a pack on the back, and 2 more in the feet. The latter also served as maneuvering thrusters. Although the power suit was designed for operations in space, it could also be used for limited flight within an atmosphere. This occasionally allowed space troopers to be used as an alternative to paratroopers, for instance, in assault operations against entrenched enemies. Running in this armor was challenging, so whenever possible, space troopers preferred to move using repulsors, essentially flying. The built-in life support system provided a 10-hour oxygen supply, while the batteries lasted for 4 hours of continuous operation. There was an integrated medical injector in the feet of the armor. The mini medkit power suit contained painkillers and antiseptic stimulants. If a soldier received a mild or even severe injury, panicked, or was concussed, the system assessed his physical condition and administered the appropriate medication. If the stormtrooper was seriously wounded and fell unconscious, the automation of the power suit could sustain his life until medical help arrived. The visors and external observation cameras of the power suit had built-in night vision devices, supplemented by 2 lights installed on either side of the head. The creator of the armor was Dr. Nashik Lalik. Incidentally, it was called the Sundar 9. Dr. Lalik was a great specialist in creating various types of protective gear. In particular, he created the armor for elite units such as the Storm Commandos and Rad Troopers. The latter, for reference, are specialists in combat in high radiation zones, as well as in areas contaminated with chemical or biological weapons. Nashik Lalik's younger sister, named Saran Lalik, who served in the intelligence of the Rebel Alliance, believed that her brother could be persuaded to defect, convincing him to create power suits for the Rebel Alliance and later for the New Republic. However, even without her brother Saran's help, soldiers of the New Republic sometimes appeared on the battlefields in power suits, though very rarely. Naturally, this was non-Imperial made armor. Shortly before the Battle of Endor, an improved version of the Space Troopers power suit appeared. The first and second models were used by remnant Space Marines throughout the Galactic Civil War. Fortunately for the New Republic, the power suit and its operation were expensive. Additionally, there were very few soldiers trained to wear the power suit and fight in space within the remnant. As mentioned earlier, space troopers in their power suit could participate in battles on the planet's surface. However, this was akin to using a microscope to hammer nails, an inappropriate use. Besides, for planetary operations, the Empire had its own variant of the power suit. This was worn by Hazard stormtroopers. These are a type of heavy infantry designed for fighting in areas contaminated by chemical weapons, high radiation zones, acid rain, and other unpleasant factors. Essentially, these soldiers fought where an ordinary person without protective gear would not survive long, or would die in a few seconds in excruciating pain from some airborne contamination. Hazard stormtroopers also underwent modifications to wear the power suit. They underwent genetic therapy, and their limbs, though not always, were replaced with mechanical counterparts. The power suits worn by these soldiers were equipped with a soldier status diagnostic system, a set of chemicals to cleanse the body from all kinds of infections, medications for wound healing, and various targeting systems in the helmet. A soldier in this armor could remain in virtually any contaminated environment, in open space or at great depths underwater for up to 3 days. However, running in this armor was not possible. We encounter Hazard stormtroopers in the game Star Wars Jedi Knight Jedi Academy on the planet Vune. There they wandered under acid rains, trying to kill our main character, Jaden Korr. Now I want to talk about the power suit models available not only to the armed forces of independent states, but also to various military and paramilitary organizations, and even to civilians. That is, about the power suits available for public sale. Well, almost public, because the closer to the core worlds of the galaxy, the more difficult it was to legally buy and wear a power suit. On some planets, possessing a power suit could be equated to owning a personal tank. Let us also recall the Purge Troopers, elite soldiers in power suits, serving as bodyguards and enforcers of dirty deeds for Adelhard, the ruler of the Anoat sector. The armor of the Purge Troopers was unique, not found outside the Anoat sector. In its manufacture, experience from the droid development and the Dark Trooper project was taken into account. In his Purge Troopers, Adelhard took not only stormtroopers worthy of his attention, but also some local bandits who swore loyalty to him. An unconventional approach, I must say. Usually in the Empire, they tried to accept people with a clean biography into elite units, although not always with a clear conscience. After the Battle of Endor, several of his Purge Troopers switched to the side of the rebels, who soon declared themselves the New Republic. No special training was noted among the Purge Troopers. They primarily relied on their power suits, which provided decent protection against blasters and allowed the use of heavy weapons. Although, as a rule, they were armed with obsolete rotary Z6 blasters, which the clones used during the Clone Wars without any power suits. Let us consider the magnificent Power Suit Series AV, produced by the GTU Corporation. Why a series? Because the manufacturer made 3 versions of the power suit at once: AV-1S Scout Armor, AV-1C Combat Armor, and AV-1A Assault Armor. They were released several decades before the Clone Wars. All 3 types are present in the guides: the Arms and Equipment Guide, the Scum and Villainy, and Galadinium's fantastic technology. Let us start with the lightest version. The AV-1S power suit was intended for reconnaissance and search and rescue missions. However, in reality, the protective capabilities of the armor made it an excellent choice for the battlefield, but only if the enemy did not have powerful blasters. The armor consisted of a durable and at the same time flexible exoskeleton, onto which armor plates were attached. The armor was fully sealed, and the integrated life support and climate control system allowed several hours of operation in hostile environments, as well as in areas with chemical contamination. The servo motors, life support system, and electronics of the armor operated on 3 standard removable power packs, energy cells. A full charge of the energy cells provided 36 hours of continuous operation. It was impossible to replace the energy cells independently without leaving the armor, as they were located in a pack on the back. However, even with depleted energy cells and non-functional servo motors, it was possible to continue combat or reconnaissance missions using the AV-1S as a regular armored suit. This was due to the relatively light weight of the armor, only 18 kilograms. The process of donning the armor was quite simple and took no more than 5 minutes without external help. Removing the AV-1S could be done within 1.5 minutes. The armor featured a built-in repulsor, allowing soldiers to fly at a speed of 10 meters per second at altitudes up to 1 kilometer. However, the repulsor quickly drained the battery reserves, and frequent use was not recommended. Similar repulsors were also installed on the combat and assault versions of the armor. Controlling the AV-1S, like all types of power suits, required specific skills. Basic skills could be acquired within a few days, but full mastery required significantly more time. Mercenaries who perfected the use of their power armor and combat tactics were in high demand. Unlike most models of power suits, owning an AV-1S was not considered illegal in many worlds. However, when attempting to purchase it, the law enforcement agencies of many planetary governments required the presentation of the appropriate license, at least a bounty hunter license. During the final years of the Republic and the height of the Empire, the Galactic Civil War, and the New Republic, the AV-1S power suit was eagerly used by local paramilitary organizations, predominantly by mercenaries. Rebels also occasionally used this armor. In general, anyone who had enough credits could use the AV-1S, moving on to the AV-1C combat armor, the full combat version of the armor. Undoubtedly, one could fight effectively in the previous version, AV-1S, but the combat and assault versions were regarded by the developer as the most suitable for direct firefights with well-armed opponents. This power suit was designed for frontline soldiers and assault units, especially those operating in urban and mountainous terrain. Despite significant visual differences from the reconnaissance version, The AV-1C has a similar exoskeleton design onto which thick armor plates and additional equipment are mounted. The soldier's head is protected by a round helmet with a large glazing area, ensuring full enclosure. The latter is considered a serious drawback, as a precise or accidental headshot from a blaster rifle, a very powerful blaster pistol, or a large-caliber firearm can instantly kill or severely injure a soldier. At the same time, all other parts of the powered armor successfully withstood close-range hits from even high-powered military blaster rifles. Of course, no armor, not even the AV-1S, could withstand an endless plasma barrage, but a soldier could survive several direct hits that would otherwise leave a hole as big as a Wookiee's fist. This power suit could be penetrated by a shot from a tank blaster or an anti-tank grenade launcher. The helmet of the armor has a targeting system that inputs data onto the soldier's visor. There is a short-range comlink up to 50 kilometers. It features a passive night vision device and an integrated macro binocular, which can be used as an alternative to a telescopic sight for long-range shooting. The weapon management system could be linked to the weapon itself. No more than 2 pieces could be linked to the weapon management system. If the blaster had a camera or an electro-optical sight with image transmission capabilities, it was possible to fire from behind cover, exposing only the weapon's barrel. The visual output would appear on the helmet's visor, along with the aiming point, like in a computer game. This also allowed for hip-firing accuracy. However, if the soldier picked up someone else's weapon, the weapon management system could not quickly sync with the other weapon's aiming system. The armor almost didn't restrict movement. One could run, jump, engage in hand-to-hand combat, lie down, and roll over quickly until the batteries ran out. A full charge of the energy cells lasted for 24 hours of continuous operation. Even after the charge was depleted, combat could continue due to the power suit's weight being only 25 kilograms. During the heyday of the Empire, the Galactic Civil War, and the New Republic, the AV-1C power suit could be found in use by wealthy mercenary organizations, bounty hunters, and occasionally in elite army units of some planetary governments. The cost of the armor did not allow poorer states to outfit their large armies, but equipping a few hundred soldiers was possible. Even the Galactic Empire, as you know, did not have the budget to dress all of its soldiers in power suits. Billions of sets are very expensive. And now, the heavy assault power suit AV-1A assault armor. It weighed 60 kilograms and also cost a lot, 50,000 credits. For that amount of money, one could buy a starfighter or a business-class speeder. Just like the previous variant, this power suit was designed for conducting close and long-range combat against enemy infantry and light armored vehicles in all types of combat situations. The capabilities of the AV-1A were particularly well manifested during assault operations in urban environments and mountainous terrain, during fortification assaults and boarding of starships. The thick armor was comparable in durability to the armored power suits of Imperial space troopers, allowing it to withstand point-blank shots from heavy blasters, including emplacement blasters. Shrapnel, bullets, and light blasters posed no threat to the AV-1A. Only an anti-tank rocket launcher could guarantee stopping a soldier in such armor. Servo motors increased the soldier's physical strength several times over, making him deadly in close combat. In such armor, one could easily punch a hole in a wall, blast through a lock, or break the spine of even a Wookiee. The armor almost did not restrict the soldier's mobility. However, the powerful servos required a significant energy expenditure. To power all elements of the AV-1A's design, 6 standard energy cells were used, which lasted only for 12 hours of continuous operation. Replacing the batteries in combat conditions required assistance. The limited autonomy and the inability to fight with depleted energy cells constrained the tactical capabilities of a unit in AV-1A armor during prolonged combat operations. However, assault operations and boarding actions rarely lasted more than a few hours. All the electronic components had migrated to the AV-1A from the previous combat variant. The life support system allowed combat operations in extreme weather conditions, underwater, in zones of chemical, bacteriological, or radiation contamination, as long as the battery charge lasted. The AV-1A cost as much as a light starfighter, required professional technical service and a well-trained soldier operator. These circumstances made the AV-1A a very rare phenomenon in non-state armed forces. Only highly professional and very wealthy mercenary organizations, often holding an imperial license, could afford the AV-1A. Additionally, during the Republican period, some army units of the states that were part of the Republic, as well as independent states, wore this armor. These were units of heavy assault infantry and airborne troops, in general the elite. During the imperial period, there were also planets whose authorities had the money and the legal ability to purchase such armor. The AV-1A was considered one of the best available power suits on the open market. A very cool thing. Besides these three models produced by the GTU Corporation, there was a power suit for those who were less affluent available for purchase. This armor was called the PX-11 Battlement. It was created by the renowned company Arakid Industries. The armor cost only 9,000 credits. This was a fairly typical example of a power suit from the late Republic and Imperial period. PX-11 was an armor suit made of heavy Durasteel armor plates with a rigid exoskeleton, complemented by synthetic muscles and nanohydraulics. The battlement was equipped with an autonomous life support system, allowing survival in a vacuum or toxic atmosphere for up to 1 hour. The helmet of the suit included an integrated comlink, as well as optical and acoustic sensors that enhanced vision and hearing. The wearer of the power suit could easily navigate in darkness, smoke, and other visibility-impairing conditions. The suit's power system was designed to operate continuously for 12 hours. The PX-11 did not have a built-in targeting system, nor did it have other fancy features like repulsors. Considering its price of 9,000 credits, one cannot expect anything extraordinary. To date, the PX-11 armor is only mentioned in one relatively new guidebook, Dangerous Covenants, on pages 49 and 51. Now let's take a look at a lightweight power suit from this era. We'll start with the Juggernaut 510 Combat Power Armor, created by Kozal Corporation. Kozal developed the power suit specifically for mercenaries and the armies of small planetary states, small and not wealthy. It was intended for troopers of the heavy infantry of advanced assault units. So they aimed to make the armor durable, yet inexpensive, achieving a balance between protection and price. Protective elements made of plastoid and Durasteel were mounted on the lightweight and flexible exoskeleton, capable of withstanding direct hits from army-grade blaster rifles, large-caliber bullets, and high-speed shrapnel from grenades and artillery shells. Nonetheless, exposing oneself to fire was not advisable. After all, the armor plates of the Juggernaut 510 were not particularly thick, and turning one's back to the enemy was certainly not recommended, as the power pack on the back could easily be disabled by a single accurate shot from even a light blaster. The left shoulder of the armor suit had a mount for installing a blaster, grenade launcher, or missile launcher with anti-tank guided missiles. The most intriguing feature was the integrated helmet system, MFTAS, a set of sensors combined with a weapon control system. It simplified targeting fire in poor visibility conditions and at long distances. Incidentally, the MFTAS system was also found in the helmets of all types of stormtroopers. Moreover, the helmet included an integrated macro binocular. The Juggernaut 510 had serious and seemingly insurmountable flaws. The weak exoskeleton and rather bulky design restricted mobility. As a result, Kozal Corporation realized they had failed to create a competitive product. Production was halted. However, a few years later, the company's lead engineer, Sarvel Tal-Oldra, who had insisted on continuing production and addressing the existing shortcomings, fled with all the blueprints to the corporate sector. There, he completed the Juggernaut 510. Serial production began there as well. The local mercenaries were satisfied. Information about the power suit. The Juggernaut 510 is taken from Gundark's Fantastic Technology, Personal Gear and Star Wars Adventure Journal 3. The engineers from the well-known weapons corporation Soro Sub did not lag behind their colleagues from Kozal. Around the same time, they presented their version of a lightweight power suit to the public, designated NLZ 511 Dragon. Initially designed for the planetary defense forces of Sullust, it was later sold to anyone interested. The powersuit NLZ-511 Dragon was a lightweight exoskeleton mounted with thin armor plates. Only in some areas was the armor thick enough to withstand serious blaster shots. It's unclear why an exoskeleton was used at all. The reason for such weak protection was the inability of Sorosub engineers to create a higher quality power system, and the inhabitants of Sullust did not have access to the technology of creating artificial muscles as used in previous powersuit models. The problem with protection was partly compensated by an excellent weapon control system, the same MFTAS system. Another advantage was that the Dragon powersuit was completely sealed, had quality filters, and had the capability to install both built-in and external equipment and weaponry. In its basic variant, it featured a light blaster cannon on the right shoulder and a flamethrower on the left arm. Moving on. The Mon Calamari are well known as shipbuilders, but few know that this aquatic people also invented and produced various types of firearms and armor, including power armor. For instance, the Leviathan power armor, created by the talented engineer Ilan Galir. This is a rare example of a power suit designed for combat not only on the surface, but also underwater. Galir designed the Leviathan power armor specifically for the combat swimmers of the Rebel Alliance, and he also set up its small-scale production. The rebels really liked it. Initially, the armor was adapted for the unique physiology of the Mon Calamari species. However, variants were produced for other humanoid species too. But Galir did not please the rebels with his invention for long. Imperial intelligence identified the rebel ally, detained him, and after a brief trial, sent the inventor to prison. However, the combat swimmers of the Rebel Alliance, and later the New Republic, received a small quantity of powersuits, allowing them to confidently battle Imperial combat swimmers underwater. Incidentally, Imperial divers, wearing light armor, were unpleasantly surprised when they encountered an enemy in a powersuit that was hard to penetrate with a standard blaster. The weapon control system of the Leviathan power armor could interact with most types of firearms and also allowed the use of various external equipment. Most often, the rebels went into battle armed with FC-1 flechette launchers. The information about the Leviathan power armor was taken from the guide Strongholds of Resistance and Gundark's fantastic technology, personal gear. The first mention of this powersuit appeared in the third issue of the Star Wars Adventure Journal, in the section Outlaw Battle Armor. Continuing the theme of the rebels, the Rebel Alliance was not the kind of organization that could afford to hope for receiving such a high-tech product like the powersuit from just one source. Let's take a look at another model created by engineers from the planet Nubia, specifically for the rebels. The armor was named the Kavdan in honor of a local dangerous predator. Overall, it was a typical lightweight powersuit of similar construction to those described above. The Kavdan armor is primarily interesting for its modularity, which allowed for the installation of a wide variety of mounted and integrated equipment. This same modularity made it possible to adapt the armor to the physiology of most humanoid races. The armor was fully sealed and had a climate control system, allowing it to fight for several hours in harsh climatic conditions, in open space, or in radiation-contaminated areas. Overall, a good thing, and not too expensive. Supporters of the rebels sold it to the Alliance at a discount, while everyone else could purchase the Kavdan for at least 13,500 credits. Information about this powersuit is taken from the Guide Force and Destiny Keeping the Peace, pages 47-48. Yet another not too expensive powersuit was created by engineers from Corellia. The Corellian powersuit cost no more than 10,000 credits and weighed only 18 kilograms. The armor's exoskeleton was of a rigid type, but did not restrict the soldier's mobility. Such armor became very popular among professional mercenaries and soldiers of certain armies whose governments cared for their survival on the battlefield, as well as bounty hunters who appreciated the affordable and sufficiently durable powersuit. There was no weapon control system or other electronic gadgets here, just armor, just an exoskeleton. Although the Corellian power suit was significantly more primitive than the aforementioned the PX-11 battlement, its demand did not decline from the times of the Clone Wars up until 8 ABY, that is, 4 years after the Battle of Endor. Approaching the conclusion of the long story about power suits in the Star Wars universe, we come to a conclusion. There was a bloodthirsty mercenary Skakoan named Kul Taska, who lived in the final decades of the Galactic Republic. But before he began killing everyone for money, Kul Taska was a respected scientist in the Techno Union, specializing in the creation of battle droids. Once, during an experiment with his protective suit, disaster struck. The fact is, all members of this race are forced to wear suits outside their home planet. Without the suit, a Skakoan breathing air would quickly die within minutes. Kul Taska survived but sustained numerous severe injuries. His disfigurement forced him to leave the Techno Union and engage in his own independent research in robotics. Thanks to his outstanding technical knowledge, Kul Taska created an impressive powered suit with a life support system, a plethora of modern electronics and weaponry. Instead of his right arm, he installed a 4-barrel blaster cannon of impressive power and rate of fire. Missile launchers were placed on his shoulder. The power suit of Kul Taska even had an integrated shield generator, turning the already dangerous Skakoan into a true walking tank. But that wasn't all. The suit also had a repulsor projector and a miniature reactor built in, allowing for flight with decent speed and maneuverability. In sum, a cyborg in a power suit, heavily armed and flying. Imagine what it was like for clones to fight against him. The armor of Kul Taska had only one drawback: low reliability. The Skakoan installed too many different weapon systems, which periodically conflicted with each other. Sometimes the system would freeze entirely. Occasionally, a system or another could fail due to overload. When the Clone Wars began, Count Dooku hired Kul Taska for special assignments. Dooku provided the mercenary with several ships and thousands of battle droids. Kul Taska might have survived the entire war, carrying out both covert and overt missions for Dooku, if he hadn't encountered Anakin Skywalker and his Padawan Ahsoka Tano. The pair of Jedi, with unexpected help from Cad Bane, killed the Skakoan on the planet Bepur, several months after the beginning of the Clone Wars. Kul Taska is one of our main adversaries in the game Star Wars, the Clone Wars, Republic Heroes. Thus, we draw the following conclusion from everything said above. As you can see, in Star Wars, there existed a great variety of power suits. They were rare, but by no means unique, and in general, all heavy spacesuits also had exoskeletons, essentially making them power suits as well. Sturdy but not intended for combat. And exoskeletons, in fact, were used almost everywhere. Builders, porters, the disabled, many wore exoskeletons in the galaxy, far, far away, for work and medical purposes. As you can see, the military used exoskeletons too. They did so to increase a soldier's strength and mobility, and to outfit the exoskeleton with armor plates and various electronics, turning it into a power suit. Please note, I was speaking only about power suits produced and used in the last few decades of the Old Republic's existence, during the time of the Empire, and up to the invasion of the Yuuzhan Vong. Of course, power suits existed in Star Wars thousands of years before this as well.